Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. My name is Shannon and today is going to be another what sold video. We're going to just hit the highlights of the rest of November and of last year, and we're going to just see some things. I just kind of had to pick and choose some certain things that I thought either were interesting or they were really profitable, or something that maybe you could learn and then use in your reselling business as well. Okay, so let's get started on eBay. This is just a vintage flannel shirt. It was definitely chosen and I purchased it based on the pattern. And so I could see the sleeve sticking out at the whole row of men's shirts. And so I was like, ooh, what's that? So fortunately, it was a fairly good brand. I don't pick up everything Woolrich, obviously. This is a vintage Woolrich tag. As you can see, it's made in the USA. It had a little bit of wear to it, but it was super soft and everything like that. And it did sell for that $35.59. Another Goodwill find is the next one. This was just a very fortunate find we happened upon. It's Ariat, and it's a men's 2XL vest, kind of like a soft shell type material. Let's see, it's got, different features, things like that. The back of it had kind of a big spell out of Ariat. That sold for $62.29. We paid whatever our going rate at Goodwill for vests in the winter, I don't know, $7.99, something like that. Okay, next up. Oh, this was a multi-item sale, so I just decided to throw it in here like this, looking like this. And it's just so exciting when someone buys more than one item. And I have a few of those multi-item orders in today's video, and it's just kind of interesting to see how they ended up working. This was someone who bought 5 pieces of jewelry from me, and their total was $129. So pretty good. As you can see, we had this charm bracelet I remember picking up at a yard sale. It was kind of funny that, sorry, this charm bracelet, it had a little tag that said genuine lucite on it, and it was elephant themed and everything. And I remember seeing it at the ladies' yard sale the year before, and she had some high price on it, and I passed it up. Saw it again the next year, and she was like, oh, anything in there is like $1. So I guess she realized her pricing was too high. So she had 2 of them, so I bought 2. And that reminds me, I probably need to list the other one again. But anyway, that one sold in this lot with this Brooches. And then this other clamper that was no name, an Anne Klein, and then just a made in Germany little portrait brooch. But not too bad for 5 pieces of jewelry. Okay, next up is a large piece of jewelry that was just one of my most favorite finds, my most favorite things that I have ever found, and I overpriced it for way too long. This was just, I just had this idea that this should have sold for a lot more. So it happens, and markets change. So back when I bought it, I'm thinking I paid like I think I paid $25 for it. I had gotten a couple pieces, at like an antique fair kind of thing. Like a vintage show, maybe. I think I got 2 pieces for $50, and the other piece, whatever it was, has already sold. But this one I just thought was so special. It's by Monet. What was really cool about it is that it had its original price tags, which was $25 back in the day. And it was as you can see, you could have it as a full necklace, a longer necklace, or this little section right here clips out and becomes a bracelet. Okay, so it's like a 2-in-1 kind of thing. And it was all marked and such. But it also, here you go, this little one says, this section may be worn as a bracelet. And it had the name of the design Etrusca. And I was just like, this is so cool. It's like vintage history, jewelry history. Anyway, I just thought it was cool. It was such a statement piece, Etruscan revival. I ended up finally selling it for $125, which I'm not upset about, right? Like, that's still a good profit, but I probably could have gotten that price much, much earlier. Like, I probably could have flipped it a lot faster if I had, if I had tried, if I had stayed a little bit more reasonable. But you never know, right? You got to try. And so we're talking like I bought this probably like 10 years ago, and it's been on eBay, it's been on Etsy, it's been on Ruby Lane. There were times I think it might not have been listed, and then I was like, oh, I got to get that going again. Anyway, moral of the story, check your pricing maybe a little bit more often. As far as comps, there were some comps, but nobody had the original. They either just had the necklace or something like that, or they didn't have the original tag. So I was just kind of, trying to figure it out and shooting high. Okay, next up is a set of teaspoons by Leon. Okay, so if you see this mark, this is just one of these little learning moments for flatware. If you see this mark right here, LYON, that means International Stainless. It's just one of their sub little brand categories kind of thing. And what's nice about these is that they do put the name of the pattern right on there. Queen's Fancy. Don't have to spend a whole lot of time researching. But this particular person bought 2 sets of these, of this flatware. So 8 teaspoons. And they paid $53.38. But as you can see, I'm sold out. Here's a pair of, I don't know that we've ever seen this brand, Outdoor Designs. I'd have to research it more if it's anything worth keeping an eye out for. But Mr. Pish Posh on our trip had picked up this pair of booties. They were just kind of down insulated kind of slipper, he put camp booties. So keep your feet warm at the campsite, something like that. $40 is what we ended up selling these for. Let's go over, this was a necklace sale. Now this shell necklace sold for $50, and it's a puka shell necklace, and it wasn't in the greatest condition. I have a feeling that there was a shell missing in here. There was a lot of space on the string. And I think there was just something, because they're graduated, right? And I don't know. They're just not done as neatly as some of them I've seen. So I still started kind of high, because these are definitely something you want to keep a lookout for. It may surprise you just because of, it's a shell necklace, right? And in the 90s, a lot of these became popular, just those little, the smaller shells, like you'd see a surfer wear or something like that. But those became really popular in the 90s. These go back further sometimes, and they're more of an authentic puka shell necklaces from what I understand. Some of you out there probably know way more about this than I do, but it was quite a few years ago I learned this. So I am always kind of on the lookout for this style of necklace where it's a real shell that they're using. And I'll show you the one I sold back in 2018. This one had some color to it. It had some purple into it, and I sold it for $135. So just wanted to put that on your radar. I think, trying to remember where I got that one. I think I saw it. I actually remember this story. I saw it at Value Village one time, and maybe it was on a mannequin or it was on something. And I was like, oh, that's just a really nice necklace. And then I got thinking about it, and then I think I went home and researched it, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I went back. Fortunately, it was still there. And then that's when I kind of learned a little bit more about the puka shell necklaces. So very, very, very interesting. Okay, next up, I just wanted to throw out there $35 for this little clear acrylic shadow box kind of thing. It was definitely vintage. New Dell Plastics, I found the name of it on there. And, you know, I just thought with everybody with their little collecting that they, you know, would want to hang that and put little tchotchkes in it or something like that. So took a little while, but $35 for that. Now, do you guys know this brand? These shoes, they're very similar in look to Rothy's or something like that. But it's Vivea. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. But they kind of can still be a little bit under the radar. I do see other resellers talking about it, so it'll probably only be a matter of time before it's a little bit more well known. But your thrift store still might not quite, you know, they're not Rothy's, and so it might kind of slip under their radar for a little bit longer. You know, I'm not worried about, my audience is not that big, so I'm not going to have this huge influence on the whole reselling world market. But these actually do sell pretty well. And this is the second pair that I have found. And these actually sold for $50, I think was the offer that I took. And they sold quickly. And they were just at my local thrift. I don't even remember. Sometimes I can still see the markings when they write on the shoes. How much this is that particular store. No, maybe this was Goodwill, so it was a sticker. I don't remember. Okay. The other pair I know I got at Goodwill. This pair I thought was the other thrift store. But they still had their original inserts, even though I think they had been worn. Okay, next up, a coffee mug. We love to see sales of coffee mugs, especially coffee mugs that sell for $30. It's Otagiri. From what I remember, there weren't a ton of comps on this one. It's just that I know that the tall 16-ounce grand mugs by Otagiri are generally will sell for a higher price than just an average Otagiri mug. So this one had a cow on it, and who doesn't love cows? I mean, I love this style mug. I have a few that I drink out of, but I don't love cows enough that I wanted to keep it. So $30, it went to a cow lover, I'm assuming. Okay, here's a flatware sale, something for you to guys keep an eye out. We've talked about Canoe Muffin on the channel before. So here are some steak knives that I found. I have a feeling I found these thrifting and then, I think a little thrift store. And then they just kind of got buried in a bag, like a bag I never fully unpacked. And then I came across them recently and I was like, you know what? Those are going to sell so fast. So I popped those on there. They sold for $40 because I don't think there were that many listed at the time. But the steak knives, there's a difference. There's some with this notch handle and some without. So you just make note of it. $40 for those in a quick flip. One of my favorite sales. I love selling random stuff like this. Underwear for $50. It totally did sell for $50. Full asking price. I'm double checking. Yes. One pair of jockey briefs. They have a denim look. So they were blue. They weren't tighty whities, but they were briefs. Size 34. They were from 1981, which that's the lovely thing about, I don't know where it is now. I saw it's got to be here somewhere. Oh yeah, it's further down. Okay. Underwear for some reason that has dates on it. So a lot of underwear does. And so it helps. And so the further back, the better. New in the package, $50 for one pair of jockey underwear. We're going to see more underwear in this video, whether you like it or not. Okay, just real quick. You guys know about my Oneida obelisk. We've talked about this on Flatware Friday and various times, but here's just an example of the dinner forks of one of the sales. $135, and I sold 3 dinner forks. So fun. I still have a lot of teaspoons. Teaspoons are usually the quickest to go on most patterns, and they have not hardly sold at all yet. Okay, 2003 underwear sold for $40, and I actually had 2 of these, and they both sold. So another $80 on new old stock underwear, or shall we say, maybe not new old stock. I was talking to, or in the comments, I was talking to someone about that term new old stock and how it's kind of like dead stock in that sense that it more accurately applies to things that never got sold, like you found it in the back room of an abandoned store or something like that. But it's basically new vintage. Package has never been opened is what we want to say on these. So $40 for those. And like I said, 2003. So not crazy old, but still, you know, getting up there. And okay, this one I included. It was a really nice sale. It sold really fast. They were black leather gloves with a cashmere lining. So it's just kind of a reminder to check the accessories section of your store. You just never know. I usually hit that section as a matter of course. This was Goodwill. I saw the leather gloves and I was like, oh, LL Bean, that's nice. And then I saw the size, which helped. And then I saw cashmere and I was like, all right, well, we're going to get these. And anyway, it was kind of cute. The buyer, I think it was the feedback or maybe a message, but she said that they were a gift for like her father-in-law, and she had him try them on when she got them. And then she was going to give them to him at like Christmas and hope he didn't remember that he had already tried them on. Anyway, I thought that was a good way to handle that, because that way if they didn't fit, she could return them and everything. Okay. A necktie. We haven't talked about neckties much because I haven't listed that many recently. They are still my bread and butter. I've sold a handful in the last few months. But I do have some that I found a good one not long ago that I need to get listed, a vintage one. And I have a few more in the backlog that I can work on as well. This was a 40s or 50s. I just thought I'd share it with you again. You can see the texture of that was so interesting. Nice pastel striping. I took a $25 offer on this. That was fine. And you can see the construction of the back. The location of the tag lets us know that it's vintage. It was more like the 60s, 70s. They started moving the tag up to the middle of the back of the tie. So whenever I see a tag down at those ends, I get excited because I figure it's vintage. And then I've done videos on neckties, of course, in the past, and we can talk about, you can figure out a lot about the age of the tie depending on the length and the width and such. So anywho, I'll probably do a reboot of that video. It's been a couple of years, so I'll probably do a 2026 reboot of that as well. Okay, so I'm also including this. $30 is what the selling price was for this gold electroplate flatware. It was made in Japan. It had the name of the pattern, Sarah Ann, on it. And I only included it because I generally don't get too excited about gold colored flatware. I've probably talked about it in the channel before, but that doesn't mean I won't ever pick it up. The key for me is price. It's got to be, this was probably a bag of flatware for $3 or something like that. Also condition, it has to be in good condition. The gold electroplate wears off really easily. And these took a while to sell. That's the other factor. And so I got a $30 offer and I said, oh yeah, let's move them on. Here's a fun little sale. This little toy set was super cute. Corningware, not really branded Corningware, but definitely is what it is depicting. But this cute little lot of dollhouse toys or such had fun little things. It had like the little handle to attach to the pans. It had some stands. It had the coffee pot and such. Now, what was interesting is that I listed this on eBay and they took it down because this one in real life, in real size, is a recall. Okay, so this band that goes around it will, like, the glue fails, and so the handle pops off and you get hot coffee all over yourself. So that's a recall. So eBay will pull those listings. So I think I just had to appeal it and just say this was a toy. This isn't the full size thing. And they reinstated it. But I didn't cross post it to like Etsy or anything like that because I didn't have confidence that Etsy would understand. And like their bot would just remove it. And I just didn't want to deal with that because I didn't think there'd be anybody I could talk to who could look at it and be like, oh, you're right, you know. So I just left it here and waited for the sale. Next up, another example of a mug that I like to, type of mug that I like to pick up is anything to do with the railroad. And this one was the Grand Trunk Western. It was Canadian National Railways. Not super fast that it sold for, but it did sell for, I'm thinking, $25.99. Yep, full asking price. Then I mentioned this on, I think, on a Facebook post. I think I was doing Facebook fairly regularly at this point when this sold. But this is like a good starter. Like if you're getting started with Oneida, with selling flatware, this is just a good pattern to tuck away into your head because it always sells. So it's Oneida, it's Bancroft, it's from the 90s. The backs will say Oneida USA. And the teaspoons and the dinner forks especially do well. These sold for $50, this little set. And it was an offer that I took. I probably could have held out longer for a little bit more. There's 6 teaspoons. I could have probably gotten the full $10 per spoon. But I find more and more, and I must have been doing it back then too, that I am taking offers that are in the ballpark. You know, I'm trying to be better about that and just move things through, right? And, you know, sometimes it's a difference of, well, I would have accepted this much, you know, and it's a few dollars difference and you just have to, so I just take it. Sometimes the actions of accepting offers then just kind of keeps your store, you know, eBay likes it. They like it when you're moving stuff, right? So sometimes we just do that. But I'm not sneezing at $50. Like, I'll take $50 for 6 teaspoons. That's works for me. Here's another fun item that I wanted to put on your radar in case it wasn't already. We have sold so many of these over the years, mostly on Etsy, but lots of Dymo label makers, the vintage ching 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 kind, right? And you can see Mr. Pish Posh was having a little fun with his display. Dymo rocks. Little 80s action there. I'm thinking is what he was going for. Even though this was, I guess it says 1966. I think that was based on, the box. That's what did it. Made in the USA, right? So these were popular in the 80s as well, but you know, Dymo's been around a while. Now they're doing thermal label printers and all sorts of things. So, but people still like these. And this was just beige. Like, we do really well with like basic ones as long as they're a cool color. And we include some tape. I usually pick up tape when I see it so that we can include maybe some bonus rolls, you know, when we find one like this. So $43.99 for this. Okay. A brooch I sold. I just thought this was pretty and I wanted to share it. This is a 1940s approximately bow brooch. Sterling, you know, sterling is selling really well right now. As you can see, I didn't really clean it up or do anything to it. And it sold for $35. Oh no, even $30 on that one. I love those red stones. Okay, here's another jewelry sale. And I just want to laugh at myself because I sell jewelry and I do watch some other YouTube content to learn things about the things I'm selling or the things I'm interested in. But a lot of times I put things on captions or I don't listen. I don't hear people talking about vintage too often. And so as you guys have known, if you've watched me any length of time, I have certain ways I say things because that's what's stuck in my head. That's what I made up in my head like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and that's the way it's stuck, right? So in my head, I've always said Hobie because it's Hobe, but even though I have seen the accent on the E like forever. So, I mean, I looked it up. I think it's Hobe. You guys can let me know. I mean, it should be Hobe. And I just double checked. They said it's named after a person. And if their last name was Hobe, then that makes sense. And you can see upside down that the accent is right there on the name on the pieces. But anyway, I'll try to change the patterns in my brain and start saying Hobe, but it's $35.19 for this pair of really cool sparkly clip earrings. Next up, Black & Decker Space Maker. It's a slimline version, so a little bit different than some of their other stuff. I didn't get $70 for this. It was listed for a bit. We ended up taking an offer. I know we did $55. We were happy with that. We paid $4 or $5. Mr. Pish Posh found this at a thrift store, and it was one of those cases where, because he's 6 feet tall and I am not, I am very decidedly not, he saw it on a top shelf that I couldn't even see. So he found that one and we sold it for $55. And then I think I shared these with you guys, maybe in a haul video. Yes, because we talked about these little clippy thingies. But this set of suspenders I picked up at the thrift store, I think Goodwill. So like $2.99, $3.99, something like that. And they sold for $30 is the offer that I took. And then, okay, so this next one, I'm not going to show everything, but it was another multi-item order. Now, the first one we talked about was all jewelry, right? That makes sense. If you specialize in something, if you have a separate like Etsy or eBay store that specializes in one niche, and if you're more likely to get a multiple item order, right? Now, this one was interesting because this woman bought 10 or 11 items from it again. I had just a little technical difficulty there with the software. So I was talking about this woman and how it was a multi-item order, and it spanned so many different categories. It was kind of cool. She bought 10 or 11 items, and she started off with a couple pairs of shoes, and she had a question. And then she proceeded to just like make a bunch of offers on a bunch of different things. And then she just kept like looking through my whole store and shopping. It was a lot of fun. And she always made an offer on the items, but only like $2 or $3 off. Like it wasn't like they weren't crazy. And she would just say, please combine shipping, please combine shipping. Like if you can combine shipping, please accept this offer. And so I just accepted her offers, and they were like 2 pairs of shoes. She bought like 2 coffee mugs. She bought this hardware. She bought a few jewelry pieces. She bought flatware. Like it went like all over. It was so interesting. Anyway, it was about $213 is what her final order was. So about, $10 $20 an item, which was totally fair with the types of things that she bought. There wasn't anything that was like crazy discounted down or anything. So just fun. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. That was a fun little sale to kind of put together. And Mr. Pish Posh had the fun part of shipping all those different types of items together. And then at the end, she just paid for everything. And then at the end, we just did a fairly good size refund on her shipping to cover everything. Okay, so let's look at Poshmark. It's just a couple things I wanted to share from that time period on Posh. One was this Lululemon cargo pants. Lululemon, I'm trying to be a little bit more discerning. Is that the word for the types of Lululemon I'm picking up? It's kind of, a lot of people are still doing great with it, but I'm just not buying it blindly. So I did double check these in the store, and these ended up selling for $55 on Poshmark. Then the other sale I wanted to share was just this fun one because we've talked about it before. This Dutch Brothers travel mug, right? So I had found one at our clearance store and I shared it a few weeks back that it had sold on Poshmark for $19 and super light, right? So if I'm paying by the pound, I hardly paid anything for it. And it's just, I don't have a Dutch Brothers here. That's probably why it stood out to me. If these are a dime or a dozen where you come from, then you might not even think it's like worth picking up. But anyway, I found another one, probably even in better condition. And again, at the clearance store at the bins. And so we listed it again and it sold on Poshmark again for $20. Okay, let's pop over to Etsy. We're going to talk about hopefully, I think I had everything all set up and now it's giving me all these pop-ups again. Let me see if I'm still on the right page. I think what I wanted to do here, yes, was share a multi-item sale again. And so this is what I was talking about. A lot of times when it's when it's a niche down category, like this is my sewing pattern store, that I do get multi-item orders a little bit more often. And so here's a good one, $88.50 for 6 different sewing patterns. So that was a good one there. And then this one, $31 for this. This was kind of interesting because this is a newer, enough with the pop-ups already. I'm already on Etsy. Ugh. Okay, so I guess I had come off of Chrome and came back on, and that's what ended up happening. So just ignore those. I'm not going to shop on Etsy at the moment and get my cash back, but $31 for this. Like I was saying, it's a newer pattern, and I generally, I don't pay so much attention to the new stuff because if there's still so much of it out there, the prices aren't going to be that great. This one I double checked just because of the uniqueness of it. And I think it must be discontinued because it's 31, it sold for $31. And so that was a nice little pickup. Then here's a Vogue, another pattern I just wanted to share, $22. I've mentioned this before, I do tend to look for men's vintage patterns because there's not as many out there. The ones people bought back in the day, they generally use them because they didn't buy as many as probably women's or kids or things like that. And so to find them uncut and everything can be a little bit, I don't even know where my little X is for this. Okay, $22. Things just don't always go the way you want. $24. Here was a nice little Civil War costume one that I just wanted to share as well. Something this kind of style, historical costumes, I generally keep an eye out for. On the other Etsy shop, we had this Clyban mug sold for $18. High class cat. I think I'm down to maybe 1 or 2 of these Clyban mugs. As you remember, I sold a lot of them on Ruby Lane, and so it was a little bit slower. But the ones I've moved over, like to eBay and Etsy, that once I shut Ruby Lane down, then they've been selling as well. And then a scarf. I'm just trying to remember to, for so many years on Etsy, I had a certain vision of the types of things that I sold on Etsy, and I've kind of gotten away from that where I'm just cross-posting my vintage. Like, it's not a particular era, it's not a particular style. I'm trying to remember that Y2K is selling on Etsy just as well as, older stuff. And so I cross-posted this sweater, which I'm glad I came across it in my stash now that it was November. So I was like, quick, get it listed. And it was 100% wool by Loch Caron Highlander mug sold for, the scarf sold for $27. I need to get off of here. Okay, and the last little fun sale that I picked up, I think at a yard sale. Honestly, I think this was the same sale as the charm bracelet, but this I bought the year before, and it was like $1 or $2 or something like that. But what the sweetest thing was that on the back, it said it was hand carved in leather by so-and-so in somewhere Montana in 1967. I did figure out where it says which town in Montana. Rimini, Rimini, is now considered a ghost town. Isn't that interesting? Okay. I probably should have put ghost town in the title, but not that that has anything to really do with the ghost town. But like hand-tooled, hand-carved little leather horse. I thought was super cute. $28, and it was only like this big. It was teeny tiny. Okay, I've got to go. It's been kind of crazy busy. I'm sorry I haven't been on here that much. But it will be busy for a little while. But I'm gonna try to get some videos out here. As I've mentioned before in another video, I do have a surgery coming up at the beginning of February. And so I may have at least one video or something that I'll schedule for like during that time. So it's not a complete dry spell. But as you know, and you guys are so understanding, I will need some time to recover. But it's coming up quick, and hopefully we'll get another video or two out here in the next couple of weeks before that happens. And as always, leave comments down below with your sales, how things are going, fun stuff you've been finding and selling, and I will talk to you guys soon.